Hello, everyone. This is Jamie from Independent Street NOLA, or Independent Street Tarot, and I'm here to talk about this beautiful full moon that is happening on April 1st, April Fool's Day. As you can see over my shoulder, which one? This one. It's going to be at 9:13 p.m. here in New Orleans. So this full moon will actually be on April 2nd for some of you. So let's talk about what's happening. As we know, full moons happen when the moon and the sun are opposite. So we would say our masculine and feminine are opposite. You can see the moon is over here. She's at 12 degrees of Libra. And actually, right, she's been by herself for a while. And I think that's really telling and interesting. You can see the sun is over here with all these other guys. We still have this stellium where the sun is in Aries. And then we have the rest of the planets over here in Pisces. So, you know, the moon is our intuition. Our moon is how we work in cycles, right? She's always moving. And so, again, this is a time, I think, of deep reflection. It is a time of listening to ourselves, really observing. The moon observes, she sees everything. Observing what's going on in our lives so we can make these changes. As you can see, well, let me just point a couple of things out, which I think are really interesting. Mars is right here at 23 degrees of Pisces. And then Venus is up here, and she just moved into her home sign of Taurus. Venus rules Taurus. Um, Mars rules Aries. So what's interesting, and you really can't tell from this, but if I pulled up the grid, you'd be able to tell. Um, Mars in Venus are speaking to no one during this full moon. They are not speaking to anyone. They are quiet. Um, Mars to me is when he's in Pisces, is in deep meditation. And really at this time he is because he's speaking to no one. And Venus just got home. She just moved back into Aries. And so she's like, thank God I'm home. I can kick my feet up for just a second before I have to start talking to people, right? And I think that's really interesting with our masculine and feminine being quiet and not in conversation with anyone, while the other planets, in Venus and Mars are the lovers of the zodiac. And it's important for us to realize that they are recalibrating their relationship with each other, and they've been doing that now for years. They've just both have gotten out from underneath the sun where they were basically following the sun for months. And now they've come far enough out of the sun so we can now um, see them again in the sky. Venus is the evening star. And I'm not sure when Mars is. Is he the morning star right now or is he at night too? I don't know. It's just my job. So anyway, let's talk about this full moon because the sun and the moon also represent our masculine and feminine. The moon being our feminine and the sun being our masculine. Aries is where the sun is. Aries is that fire sign. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is that I am presence. It is how we see ourselves. And the moon is opposite of Aries. It's in Libra, and Libra is the relationship with the other, right? Aries is the relationship with self. Libra represents the relationship with other. That's why when we talk about lower Libra, it's constant people pleasing, right? Libra is that the scales of balance. It's cardinal air. It's how we think, like you could say how we think for the first time, how I think about um, how I want to interact with the other. Oh, how I think about now I realize how the other has an impact on me. And we want to keep those things in balance. Work with those scales. Uh, Aries, how we feel about the self. I am. So lower Aries would be temper tantrums, egotistical, um, only out for the self, not understanding the other, quite honestly. And then Libra and its lower self, too much about the other, right? So they're opposites. And so we want to have a little bit of each. Cardinal fire, cardinal air, right? That's what's going to keep us moving forward. And you can see they're at 12 degrees of the sign. So again, still a year early degree. This to me in the tarot would be a night. So the night of Swords and the Knight of Wands, right? That Knight energy. Because the first 10 degrees or so is that page energy, right? That unjaded energy. So now we're in Knight energy, which to me represents loyalty. Okay, what is it that we need to do? We've got a little bit of our feet underneath us. We're still learning in our knighthood, but we know we must keep moving forward and we must have a mission. Okay. The moon, um, the moon is in a quincunx with, hold on, with Mercury. Mercury is right here. Um, and Mercury is still in Pisces. Okay. And this is important because the story of this full moon to me is, and this is so, on one hand, it's very simple. On the other hand, it's very layered. Okay. It is this idea of getting things back into balance, especially your relationships with the other. Okay. And we've got to see that in all the ways, right? And we've got to see where we're not speaking up for ourselves because we don't want to offend the other. We want to keep people pleasing, right? And this can go, this can go into many different areas of life. If you're taking care of loved ones, okay, and maybe you're in over your head with it, okay, and you're not saying anything because you don't know how to speak to your family about it. And so again, you're just still going to be the martyr, right? You're going to just try to figure it out instead of saying, okay, wait, I need some balance in my life. This could be about relationships with other people. If you are a person and you are coming into a relationship where you would like to be in relationship with another person, but yet in your mind, you're like, I bring nothing to the table. Okay, that is your red flag to figure out why you think that about yourself, and what you do bring to the table. Okay, so as a person, I know what I bring to the table, whether it's in work, whether it's in relationships, friendships, romanticships, whatever you want to say, right? You need to know what you're bringing to the table. And if you're thinking, I got nothing, I've got nothing to give to this person, um, then that is your time to figure out, and I don't mean this meanly, but it's time to start, get therapy, get help, figure this out, okay? Because we want our relationships to come into balance. We want that, whether it's work, home, any of these, we want them to come into balance. And we have to have a sense of who we are. And if we don't have a sense of who we are, Aries, right? If we don't know what we're bringing to the table, then we're going to get lost. We're never going to be happy, right? We're never going to find what it is that we're looking for because we don't know who we are, right? And Aries is that I am presence, that self. And Aries has Saturn right here. Aries is conjunct Saturn. You can see Saturn's at 5. The sun's conjunct Saturn. Saturn's at 5 degrees of Aries, and the sun is at 12. Saturn is going to bring in that boundary. Saturn isn't going to let things keep moving, all willy-nilly. I'm telling you, the only reason we're not in more of a shitstorm than we're not due to this administration is because Saturn is sitting right there in Aries. You can't convince me otherwise. Okay, you cannot. Um, but with ourselves, you know, it is trying to get us some boundaries. We need to look at this, this, and this. And we need to figure out what we need to work on and change that in order to have things in balance, in order to have a relationship, not only with the self, but with the other. Going back to Mars, going back to Mercury being in a quincunx with the moon. When planets are in a quincunx with each other, that means there's no resolve right at that time. And this is important because Mercury is how we communicate to ourselves. And lower Pisces is that addiction, is that victimhood, is that shaming, is that's never going to work out for me, right? Pisces is chef's kiss when it comes to that. Higher Pisces, though, gets it, understands how we're all part of the big picture, understand it is a drop in the ocean because it too is the ocean, right? It understands This is ending and beginning all at the same time, right? And so we want to lean more towards that ending and beginning all at the same time as we work with this moon in Libra, okay? Because we have to have these endings. We have to have these endings in order to have these beginnings. And again, the idea of reaching out, asking for help, seeing how we can put things in a list, right? Again, I would say that's even Saturn. How can I work on this, right? Saturn rules Capricorn. We've got to work at this differently. We've got to see things differently. But this moon in Pisces, we've got to talk to ourselves differently. And you know, right now we might not have all the right words to say to ourselves, but all we might figure out is, wait, I need to see this differently. I need to talk to this differently. I need to intuit this differently. I don't know what it is or how, but now is the right time. Now is the right time moving forward because we are moving into this age of Aquarius, okay? And you can see over here, which one's my hand? Um, you know, Pluto and Juno, hello, has just moved into Aquarius. Um, Pluto is at 5 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto rules Scorpio. Scorpio's transformation, Pluto's transformation, Pluto is death. So it is going to be bringing all these things from the bottom that we hadn't seen before up into the air, which is Aquarius. Okay. That is why all these things are coming to light, right? And all the things, you name them, all the things, okay? That maybe were hid or secretive. They're all coming up, right? Because that's what um, Pluto is here to do. And it's here to do this in Aquarius because Aquarius is going to say, okay, well, this can't keep going. So we got to think about these things different. We got to communicate about these things different. We have the whole cosmos to bring in ideas, right? Because we've got to transmute, transform, and let these old things die. So all this is coming up. And within this, though, Aquarius is air, Libra is air. So Libra, you've got to see in Libras, but also us, because the moon, we all see the moon is going to be in Libra. We've got to see what's not working anymore. Okay, what isn't helping us, right? Where we thought we could still keep things going, but we just can't. Okay, because we're in this different energy. When we were in that age of Pisces, which was extremely fluid, right? Lots of water, lots of addiction, you know, lots of narcissism, lots of delusion, right? Okay. You know, we were in that underneath that veil of that water because we were in that age of Pisces, but now we're in this age of Aquarius, and Aquarius is fixed, right? Aquarius is air. Aquarius is about the self and the individual, right? And we're experiencing this in this full moon in the sense of the sun in Aries about that I am presence, and the moon in Libra are in relationship and with relationship with each other. And, you know, this is the time to have these hard conversations, but with the self. And it's the time to have these hard conversations where maybe we're ignoring things that I mean, ignoring things in the sense that they're not working. Okay. This is the time to go back over. Okay. It's 2026. What do I want to do? Where am I going? What's not fitting into that? You know, I just did a party this weekend and these wonderful ladies were in town and they were talking about their jobs and a couple of them had all this responsibility and some of it was because just where they worked, people quit, you know, people retired. And so they kept getting the responsibility and responsibility. And it's also very important, you guys, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be. Okay, because there needs to be balance in your life. There needs to be balance. If you were losing a lot of weight, putting on too much weight, not sleeping, those are all signs saying something's out of balance. And this moon is about getting things into balance. Okay, and it is about talking about what you want to get you into balance. Saturn is bringing in that boundary. You know, we were talking about it and it was like, you need to go to your boss and say, I need to do this, this, and this. That's it. That's how I want to work. That's Saturn. Saturn's bringing in a boundary, how to work. Okay. Saturn's bringing in that boundary of who you are. And this is only so much you're going to take, right? This is a new beginning. I need to be in better relationship with myself and in better relationships and relationships, right? So keep working with this energy because this is a big full moon in the sense that the wheel of fortune is this year. If you want to keep having you want your fortune to turn, right? The year of the fire horse. You want that horse to keep running. That horse isn't going to keep running if it's bringing everyone else's baggage that you aren't here to balance anymore or don't want to balance anymore. Again, just because you can and you do make it work doesn't mean you have to. Not moving forward. There's a lots of things I can do, right? But I don't want to. It's not keeping my life into balance. It's making my life out of balance. And I know we used to get these, we thought we would get these awards because we could do all these things and hold all these things. And honestly, the reward, there was no reward. It just meant someone else wasn't doing them, or someone else wasn't stepping up to the plate, or someone else wasn't learning a lesson. And we were going fucking bananas, right? Okay, I'm gonna stop this and then drop the background real fast. Maybe. Okay. We're back. Okay, so just to go over my notes, um, the moon is opposite the sun in Aries, but it will be sextiling the midheaven. And when the moon is sextiling the midheaven, it's about emotional insights. Okay, it is how do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel purposeful? Do you feel like you're doing the things that you're meant to do on the planet? And if the answer is no, you need to figure out what it is that's keeping you out of balance because at the same time, the sun is trining the midheaven, and that is being seeing all your accomplishments, especially in your public life, right? Um, and it is this idea where you need to recognize where you can adjust to keep bringing or to keep meeting more of your goals and to further your public ambition. Um, the midheaven with the moon sextiling the midheaven. Um, to me, that also signals emotional intelligence. If you do not know what emotional intelligence means, this is a good time to figure it out and see if you have any. And I mean, I'm being dead serious. We have got to move forward with having more emotional intelligence because Aries and Mars have moved into this phase where they're understanding accountability and they're understanding emotional intelligence. Okay. And that is huge, especially when it comes to being in relationship with the self and being in relationship with the other. We've got to have that balance. So, look into that. Look into that and also see because that lower Libra is about people pleasing, where maybe you're not speaking up about things in your life that need to change because you think it's going to upset the boat, right? And I promise you guys, though, if you figure out where you're in your life and what you want to do, even though you might have to cut things out of your life that maybe you've been working on for years or maybe a couple months, right? But if it's not bringing you any return on investment, it's time to let it go. Okay. Again, the energy will just roll over into something else, just because you love doing something or is really good at it, but if it's not bringing you what you want it to bring you, and you have to cut it, see how that brings your life back into balance, right? It doesn't mean, and if you're thinking, I gotta quit this because I'm a fucking loser, then you need to figure out how you're speaking to yourself, right? Are you speaking to yourself in that Pisces illusion, delusion, victimhood, always a car crash mentality? Or are you talking to yourself in Pisces where, well, this just didn't work out right now. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe there's something better for me in my life, Maybe it's time to show up in a different way. I can't wait to see what's out there for me besides this. I did this, so you try things. If they don't work, and you try something else, tomato, tomato. But I can't stress this enough. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you're bringing to the table, if you're letting people set the boundaries for you instead of you setting the boundaries, okay, if you don't feel like you're in a good relationship with yourself or the other, this is the time to take a hard look at yourself, take a hard look at your life, and see what you can do to right the ship and bring things in balance. It's not, we've got a lot of energy on the planet, you guys. It's not like how it was when I was growing up and we were all in fucking talk therapy for 300 years. Things are moving a lot faster. But I ask you to take this time and do a little bit of the hard work, because once you bring the stuff to the surface, it starts to move really quickly. And this is such a great time to do it, the year of the fire horse, because that horse wants to run and it wants to run in the right direction. Okay, friends, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you guys have a great full moon in Libra. I hope you guys start working on getting the balancing things out. I have to work on these things too. I am not a mountain or a rock. I do work on this as well. So if you have any questions, reach out in the comments below. You can find me on Instagram at Independence ST Nola. And then at my website is Independence ST Tarot or Independence ST Nola. So till then, you guys, I hope you have a great week.